Welcome to the W.Media Podcast, our exclusive series of panel discussions and interviews featuring the who's who of the global cloud and data center industry. This is your one-stop destination for expert opinions and insights from movers and shakers, and everyone that matters in the data center industry. I'm George Botros, your host today, a marketing specialist for W.Media. Now, if you're a keen industry watcher or technology enthusiast, you have probably heard about premier industry events such as Interconnect World and Cloud and Data Center Conventions, or CDC, organized by W.Media across Asia Pacific and the Middle East. Today's episode will give you a taste of an exclusive panel discussion that took during W.Media's Indonesia Cloud and Data Center Convention 2024. But before we move forward, a word from our sponsors. Brought to you by Interconnect World, where W.Media brings together connectivity experts, decision makers, including telcos, ISPs, internet exchanges, investors in technology, media and telecom government agency, and enterprise leaders to share their expertise and experience. Interconnect World comes to Batam, Indonesia on July 15th and Johor, Malaysia on July 16th. Interconnect World Forum will also be held in Sydney, Australia on August 7th. All right, now let's listen in as our speakers in today's panel discussion explore if AI and cloud computing are ahead or behind in Indonesia. The panel is moderated by Arda Kaya, Associate Director of Ernst Young. The speakers in this panel are David Forden, Head of Customer Engineering, Google Cloud Indonesia, Max Meiden Dasuki, Solution Architect Lead, Tencent Cloud International, and Rendy Maulana Akbar, CEO of K-Words Group. This promises to be power-packed show.
Thank you very much, everyone. The first item the subject that I want to discuss with you is that the current state of the AI and cloud computing in Indonesia. According to a report by Google, Temasek, and Bain & Company, Indonesian digital economy is projected to reach $124 billion by 2025. And this is primarily fueled by the advancements in technology like AI and cloud computing. So the question is, how would you describe the current environment in terms of the AI and cloud computing in Indonesia, and what the impact of these investments in the near or mid-term? So David, do you want to go for first?
Yeah, sure. Oh God, that's loud, isn't it? So I guess when you look at the noise around AI, it sort of started in really January this year, yeah? If you think about the way that technology gets adopted, there's a cycle. I think everyone's probably familiar with Gartner's approach to this, or the inflection that Gartner has, which is around what they call the hype cycle. So there's a lot of noise made. It reaches the sort of peak of inflated expectations and then sort of descends into what they call the trough of disillusionment. And then slowly the lessons are learned and it climbs up that slope of enlightenment to I think the plateau of productivity is the sort of last phase of adoption. But I can kind of see us now still really in that initial noise phase to an extent. That being said, there's a lot of work going in both in private sector and in the government. You know, there's new regulatory frameworks. There's that massive announcement that was made by a vendor that you mentioned earlier on, which when you sort of look at that pragmatically, when you're going to build a cloud region in a country, there's a lot of investment that goes into that, and it's kind of it's going to be in the billions somewhere. And we've been through that cycle. You know, in my company, Google Cloud, we did that sort of 4 or 5 years ago. So I can't imagining there's going to be a continuous investment, and that flow of investment from all the big vendors is important to build the community and also to build the national kind of integrity around the architecture and around that sort of hybrid multi-cloud environment that everyone's kind of moving towards. So I feel that, there's a lot of value coming there potentially in the near future, but obviously we need to take cautious steps.
Okay, so just to follow up on this one. So I think this has two sides. One is the network and infrastructure, and then one is the computing power to run all these AI algorithms. So based on the forecast, the demand will be increased dramatically. So where do you see the Indonesia is having a bottleneck right now? Is it on the infrastructure, network communications, or is it on the computing or data center side of the businesses?
So I think in terms of computing power, data centers, network connectivity, we're all good, actually. There's plenty of infrastructure to leverage and plenty of opportunity for customers to leverage all the major cloud providers. Even the government cloud also has some great capacity and so on to leverage. I think where the challenges kind of come at the moment, there's sort of perception in the market around skills, right? That there's a lack of skills and ability to sort of, implement solutions. But funnily enough, and again, this is sort of a personal opinion in a sense, but based on some experience, it's like cold water. Sometimes you just got to dive in.
Yeah.
As long as you don't drown, it's okay. So that's what I'd urge people to do, is just start projects and invest in things. Don't go in too deep, but, take a little bit of care as you go and make sure that you kick goals quickly. We've had customers that have gone in on like a 6-week engagement with our teams and delivered a full solution in production in AI. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Thank you, David. And Max, I would like to return to you. What do you think about the current landscape in terms of regarding the AI and cloud computing in Indonesia?
Hey, yes, thank you. So I think what I see in terms of, like, I'm an Indonesian, right? So I've been here and also been exposed. I was in, some of the other part of the world, I would say. I'm going here and then I tried to compare, right, between like, in the US counterparts and in China and also in Indonesia. What I see is that increasingly people are getting used to, all this kind of AI technology, for example, like when Tencent is from China, right, originated. So when I recently go there, I feel like the advancement of AI, or like the acceptance from the people to accept this AI, at least particularly in China, is much, much higher, right? Like when we see like the, let's say EKYC or like face recognition, face payment, for example, right? Which is something that's maybe very rare here, but it has happened in China for years, right? It's a common thing for them. So it is something that I see there. When I see it here, and they even go to the next step, for example, on the Palm side of it. So this is something that I feel in Indonesia, while we are still not that far, either the technology-wise or the acceptance-wise, but I think we can, Indonesia, right, we have this tendency to leapfrog, right? Like we probably skip something and then go to the next one, right? So I think this is somewhere that we can learn, see where we can adapt and adopt some of the solutions, right? In terms of talent, like my colleague says, if let's say maybe you are not sure, you can dive in first, you can try. So I think, services that's available right now will be able to help you, right? Like to go into this. You don't have to invest too much on things. Many of the underlying platform has been provided for you, and you can try it. It doesn't have to be so high. You can start from the, relatively small, I'll say. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you very much, Max. And Rendy, I would like to turn to you. Would like to get your thoughts as well
about the AI adoption in Indonesia. Okay, so my opinion is about AI adoption. Mostly some industry like finance, they already adopted. Some industry also like in customer service. A lot of providers already use AI to help customer service to answer things. Because people in Indonesia love to chat. So some company I see that already using a chatbot with AI to complete the task to make it easier for the customer service to answer the question. But I agree with Max that Indonesia maybe skip some technology. Like example, maybe if we compare to the cell phone, we skip some technology and directly going to 4G and 5G. So that's what happened in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you very much for the great insights. Then I would like to move to my second question. According to a study run by IBM, Indonesia is projected to have a leading role in technology within the Southeast Asia region. However, the two key challenges remains. So one of them is, like as we discussed earlier, the digital skills gap. So circa 47% of the surveyed businesses identified the need for improved digital skills, particularly in managing teams, fostering specialized expertise. And the second issue is about the data governance. Like 40% noted that scattered data across multiple systems hindered effective data management. So the question is that what key trends or developments have stood out in the recent years in line with these challenges in Indonesia? Maybe David, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. So to me, I just look at this whole thing a little bit like what you do when you're trying to develop a sport as an industry. So over the last couple of years, you notice that the Indonesian soccer teams come right up. So being a foreigner here, I've been living here for 18 years, right? So I kind of know things reasonably well. And one of the key things that they did to bring that sport up was bring in some talent from overseas to make that happen. So I think in a sense that's something that's a consideration that should be probably on the national agenda. And at the same time, obviously there's a regulatory framework which is really in essence still growing. So there's been some regulations that have kind of come from OJK, more guidelines from OJK. So OJK is the regulator for the investment and so on aspect of financial services. On top of that, there's a national AI strategy that's been in place actually since about 2020. That sort of more looks at the sort of horizon and any of the challenges that we deal with in terms of humanity and where AI needs to be sort of regulated and controlled. So there's that in place. Also, the UU ITE law I think came into effect last year. So that's around electronic transactions, which also is partially addresses some of the regulatory framework around AI. So I think that regulatory framework has to evolve, and it has to evolve to sort of, in a sense, protect humans from machines. That's what the government's there for, right? To protect us from ourselves, in a sense. But without being sort of too nanny about it, so not sort of being our mother. And at the same time, obviously, private industry needs to double down on all their efforts and really look at roadmaps and use cases and start developing a platform for benefit, right? So when you invest in building out a use case, you're going to have capabilities that get built to serve that use case. So the thing I'd urge companies to do is look at evolving the use case landscape and the roadmap in concert with the platform. So as you build those capabilities, make them reusable, integrate them into the platform, and you can benefit by being able to deploy more use cases very quickly. So that's going to, in a sense, facilitate a much more rapid adoption of AI across enterprise and, God willing, deliver the business value that it promises.
Thank you very much, David. And Max, I would like to turn to you. I would like to get your thoughts about these key challenges versus ongoing in-progress efforts.
In terms of the talents, right? We are still in that.
Yes.
So I think, this education and talents is something that's super close to my heart, right? Like I really, really like to talk about this because I look at it from my example when I was studying here, right? I was studying in Indonesia. I learned the things that I learned here. I noticed that when I was studying, we are being taught a lot with the technicalities, like the logics, etc. But then we are not too exposed to the latest technology, right? Like maybe when I joined the workforce, then I suddenly like, hey, what is this? Like I don't know, but I know the logic behind it, right? So this something somewhere probably somewhere in our mind, right? When we go or when we compete, let's say, with the overseas partners and customers, or we try to encourage them. I think this is something that we need to put in our mindset, right? That some of us probably it's not like we are not smart, right? Everybody is smart, I believe. We know what to do. We just didn't know yet. So I think this is just a certain leap or jump that we can overcome eventually once we get through that mindset, right? Like, we can learn anything, right? Like we know we can overcome all these things. We know that we can compete. We can learn. And in Tencent Cloud, for example, right, we do a lot of education in this area as well because we believe, and it's not just particular, hey, we just want you to learn Tencent, right? Like it's just in general as well, technology, because we believe as everybody grows, we all grow. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, based on my experience, I think this is the same across the world, not just for Indonesia, but this is just touching because of the AI's broader impact. It is also changing the education system in the future, right? And Rendy, I would like to turn to you. What is your thoughts about this?
Yeah, because this country is, I think, it's too big from the east to the west. The standard for the new technology or new things is relatively different between the city and the suburban or maybe village. So in Keywords, we create the Keywords Academy. So we create a program that allow students to visit our company and then also getting some key skill for the future in this cloud and IT industries. So we create the curriculum and also the government also support a lot of new certification company, new course like a certification for make people too easy to get a certification like that.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would like to move to our second subject, which is like perceived versus actual advancements in AI and cloud computing in Indonesia. So according to a recent study by IBM, only 23% of the Indonesian organizations in financial services and manufacturing sectors have successfully leveraged AI capabilities at enterprise level. The skill gap and the governance issues that we just discussed still remains as a barrier. So there is often a gap between perception versus reality. So what are some misconceptions people have about AI and cloud computing in Indonesia? And maybe Max, do you want to go first?
I think one of the misconception is a bit similar with the previous context, right? I think one of the misperception is that when they hear about AI in the Western terminology, we say, hey, this is like a rocket science, right? What is this thing, right? You cannot touch it. What is this AI, right? I think this a little bit of something that people need to change, because I think this is what stops them, right? Like they're scared of some things that they don't know. But actually, once they know what it is, it's actually not that rocket science, I would say. So there are a few steps in terms of the AI, right? Like the first one, the super fundamental layer is like how you build on this, like what kind of frameworks, etc., the modeling, how to even build the model, etc. But nowadays there are tools that can help you a lot in this area, right? Like, so you just need to focus on slightly on the upper layer, which is actually the things that matters to you, which is the business side, right? You don't care to build all of these things because you can find it, right? You can find it in the market, right? Including in Tencent Cloud. You can find these things and then you just build the business sense out of it. For example, right? If you want to do, let's say, digital human, right? Like you want to do like, communication, learning the stuff. So it might looks daunting, but essentially if we break it down, it's going to be, creating this digital human, the speech to text, the technology, right? And then go to the backend, learn the knowledge. There's this new, the LLM, maybe you have heard it before, like the large language model with the result, and then return it back into the text to speech, right? If you're on multiple languages, we can support that, or at the very least, you can just translate it, for example, right? Like this is going to be the step by step. Of course, there are ways to keep on improving this, but at least this where you start, right? Like once you know, oh, okay, so this is how we start, and how we are going to improve it is going to be the next story.
Got it. Thank you very much. Maybe Rendy, do you want to voice over on this question?
Okay. I think it's more about culture shock. Like people will not accept something new, but slowly but sure, like for me myself, I didn't accept what is AI, what kind of things that, and then will it take my job, will it take somebody's job? But I think we need to adapt to AI and then also maybe use it for little things, and then okay, it can help me a lot. So we need to make more just for us about that.
Okay, thank you very much. And David, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, thanks, Arda. I'll just kind of double down a little on what Rendy and Max were saying. So to me, a lot of it comes down to sort of fear of the unknown, right? That's a natural kind of human response when we're confronted with something different, yeah? So obviously everyone needs to sort of dig in and learn and experiment with that. So at the end of the day, we're all faced with common business problems. And interestingly, some of us work in the technology side, so we're also faced with common technology problems. So if you look at one of the big initiatives for most companies now, we're all moving towards cloud computing, some a little bit more aggressively than others. But ultimately, most large companies now have like at least a kind of multi-hybrid cloud type strategy. So they're going to maintain some infrastructure on-premise, some in one cloud, and potentially a second cloud is usually the way that's going with most large organizations. There's an emerging opportunity there that I think really just involves solving common problems. So having intelligence or artificial intelligence built into the infrastructure that can help you manage resources, can help you to do all the financial optimization, for example, that you need to do. Security as well is another area which is evolving very, very fast. And if you look at the complexity of that job for a human, it's very, very difficult. Some of the best security people are hackers, right? So, and you know, here we are in a sort of regular organization trying to protect ourselves against some of the biggest, most intelligent threats out there. And really AI can come to the rescue there. So what I'd urge people to do is sort of look at their own, job scope, look at the common problems you're confronted with, and look for solutions with AI. So one example of that is what we're offering actually in our cloud console. So we're building an LLM specific for security that helps you to really look at the common vulnerabilities and exploits that are available in your infrastructure, and give guidance on how to actually build defenses against those things across everything you're doing. At the same time, looking at your storage and being able to actually ascertain, okay, well, how's your storage cost optimization looking? Can you leverage nearline or offline storage a bit more in your storage? Or what are the applications that are currently running in various different machine types and with certain memory profiles? And how can you optimize that to save money? So there's a kind of example of some of the real world opportunities that relate directly to your data center operation that could help a lot with AI.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. I think it all starts with exploring, right? So this is the same for everyone. So based on my experience, so I'm working with different geographies, different markets. All AI companies or AI-powered or enabled companies are all they're exploring with their own LLMs, publicly available LLMs. So it's like an experimentation right now. So I would like to move to our final topic, which is creating a roadmap for future success. In this part, I would like to talk about a digital Indonesia roadmap. So maybe David, can you give us a brief overview? Like the Indonesian government is also working on this comprehensive digital roadmap. So considering AI's broad impact, it's very important to get support from government to realize all these benefits. So what do you think about what are the critical steps to achieve this roadmap and goals?
Yeah, sure, Arda. So at the end of the day, the government's there to help society, like I said, without being too much of a mummy or a nanny for us. So obviously there needs to be a very comprehensive regulatory framework established to keep all the companies honest and make sure that basically we're not getting ripped off to start with, because I think there's some definite threats in AI that could lead to suffering in society. So obviously the role of government in that regulatory framework is to ensure that sort of basic safety level is in place, and then have the means to ensure that companies that are operating in the country are held accountable for compliance to those regulations. So that's sort of the first step. And then to me, it comes down to the leadership from companies as well. So all the major companies, conglomerates and so on in the country, considering that half of the Jakarta Stock Exchange is BUMN, so state-owned enterprises, there's kind of a crossover between government and the private industry that is probably an advantage for this country, actually, when you think about it, right? So we've got the ability to move probably a little bit more rapidly across government and private industry to bring all that stuff to bear and ensure that Indonesia moves in a very safe direction with AI.
Okay, thank you very much. And Max, Rendy, do you have any comments to add on the government's plan?
Well, the government is issuing a new regulation, I think is end of last year. So it asks about for the company who runs AI or a new technology to follow the rule. So it makes sure that the company can stop the AI process. So it means that the government wants to control AI, not will lose it as the AI become conscious. But we think about it's really good because we can understand that government have a rule for make sure that the AI will stay for the users in Indonesia.
And how is the current landscape? I mean, compared to other countries within the region. So, can you comment on it? Like, for example, like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, compared to that?
I didn't see the details about each country, but I hear some countries also using the similar rules about the AI to handle it.
Okay, thank you. And Max?
Yeah, I think just to add on a little bit. So I recently talked to one of the government body, right? Like to explain some of the technology that we propose to them, or we just share with them what we are doing. And they're actually super supportive about it, right? Like they really like the idea, and they say, hey, like I think you guys are doing well. Let's just, you do whatever that you are doing, keep doing it. We sort of work together. There's no such things as license and whatnot, right? But I think the government is generally really, really supportive in terms of like the AI movement in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have only 4 minutes left, and I would like to cover one final question. So based on World Economic Forum, it is highlighted that use of AI actually increase the productivity. Maybe just a couple of use cases, maybe can you, David, maybe we can start with you. Can you give us some use cases, productivity increase in this?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, for confidentiality reasons, I can't disclose the names of any customers in relation to that. Obviously, things are moving fairly fast in that space. And the customers that we're working with right now are using AI in a highly competitive manner. So one of the areas in which we're seeing a lot of productivity gains is in call centers. And this is not just the AI side of call centers. Some of the big call center operations here, they have other kind of satellite businesses around what they're doing. And one of them that comes to mind, which we've seen extreme productivity gains, is in processing contracts. So some of these organizations are confronted with processing contracts that are, 1,500 pages thick and maybe 100 to 200, 300 of them a month. But with AI, we've been able to get the processing time down to a literal fraction of what it was and offer them a very strong business benefit. So that's one of the use cases that I think's become quite relevant. Yeah,
that's a great use case. Thank you very much. And Max?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. So I think it's the same with us, right? So we also work a lot with the AI. So we started with the cloud computing, but increasingly, right, like especially this year, start from end of last year, people are going more and more into the AI, so that we also pursue that. And then we also work more, not just like the underlying, but also slightly on top of it, right? Like the AI technologies that we have. So we also work with, some financial institutions like BRI, for example. We work with our AI technologies together with them, work with, multiple layers. And I think it's a very beneficial for both of us as well. We have learning together. Yeah.
I see. Thank you very much. And Rendy?
For me, I connect with a lot of researchers as they're especially creating research in AI. So I learned about a lot of things from them. And then also, I saw a lot of designers in Indonesia also creating some creation using AI, and also in law to learn about the contract also in Indonesia. It's happening now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have a question here.
I'm Andi Sama. So my question is more like on the adoption. So like Max mentioned, like LLM being used for the eKYC. David mentioned like LLM somehow leverage for the security. So in my understanding, and then from also this morning session, data centers is also now it's everywhere. It's preparing for the infrastructure for the AI, especially in here. And then in my understanding, also like building the foundation model is requires like thousands of GPU, and then the adoption is not that easy. And then in my understanding also, there's like a few approaches. So like, what do you think like the trend in maybe in Indonesia or like in Asian or other country, like adopting the customer, the enterprise adopting the Gen AI using like the right without modifying the model, the foundation model, or like doing like a fine tuning. I don't know what is like your view on the what's the panel's view on the trend worldwide. Doing fine tuning still like require maybe hundreds of GPUs. So in terms of infrastructure, it's very challenging. Thank you.
Okay, so if I get it correctly, so you want to know like, hey Max, we know that there are some technologies out there, but how about further fine tuning it? Is it something that you want to highlight? Yeah. So I think this the challenge that we definitely have and face and overcome as well. So the thing about the AI is that much like anything else, right? Like let's say you learn math, you don't suddenly learn about like all the algebra and all this, right? You start with like the simple one first, like the plus, minus, times, and etc. etc. So much like that is also applicable to this technological AI, right? Like you just start with the simplest one first. That's where the available platform right now can help you a lot. Which is why what I'm saying is that you don't have to just suddenly, hey Max, I want to have the perfect AI. No perfect AI, right? Like so we just go step by step and try to improve it along the way. So there are things like, for example, just now I mentioned like digital human that we are doing, right? Like we do have these things that we can generate within a couple of days, for example. But if you want to have like further expression, the intonation, how they behave, the movements of the body, these are some things that we need to tune, which we can work together, for example. But each of the enterprise or the needs of the people might be different, right? Hey, I want it to be, like behave this way. I want it to be intense, etc., etc. So this where it's important for you and something that you can work together with the available platforms, right?
You might add a little bit to that, or I thought I might just add a little bit to that. Yeah. So no matter which LLM you start with, you're going to need to have a framework that goes beyond that, right? And part of that framework involves potentially masses of data. And that data can be structured, it can be unstructured. So if you're talking about, say, structured data, there's considerations like embeddings, for example, which need to be in place in that data in order for the AI engine to actually understand it. So there's work to be done there. If you're looking at, say, data center operations and you want to incorporate specific equipment and logging and all these types of aspects, then you're going to need to train the model on how to handle that data. If you're talking about things like fault detection or predictive analysis in the network, for example, those are things that need to be trained on that model. So, and this, at the same time, if you're building an industry solution and that industry is operating in this country, there's different regulations and different things that the model will need to understand in order to bring success. So what you're going to need to do to get past these kind of barriers of adoption is get the right advice from the right consultants and even from the cloud vendors, right? So bring us in. We've got some experience to leverage, people like EY as well, so we can come in and actually help your organizations to build that platform roadmap and the use case roadmap and then the implementation side of it in respect to the architecture and help you to define the way to move forward. That'd be a much faster way to move, in my opinion.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much indeed. So I'd like to thank Arla, Rendy, Max and David for your input and a good discussion. Thank you very much. Perhaps we'd like to show our appreciation here for them.
And that's a wrap. We will continue to bring you many more such panel discussions from our cloud and data center conventions from across the Asia Pacific and the Middle East. Don't forget to sign up for our Interconnect World events. Please visit interconnectworld.com for more. We will be back in 2 weeks yet with another exciting episode of W.Media Podcast. Thank you for your time. I'm Joyce Botros. Bye for now.